that's what I thought. Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate, the Great. And just a disclaimer. I have never, I don't, nor have I ever enjoyed being called Nasty Nate. uh, Individuals have taken it upon themselves to label me that. Well, not label, but call me that in a joking way. That's why I've never punched anybody. But just tell a friend. Don't call me that. Um, my name is Nate. I'm not really a nickname type of person. Nate is as nickname as I get. Um, but I'm here today, and I'm gonna do some hot topics with my guest Monty. So, Monty, I need you to keep your headset on. I know you thought you were going to be doing something else, but gotcha. Um, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about some politics. I wanted to talk a little bit about um, some hot topics in the news, some stories that I've been reading, and just so I am doing a project that I'm testing out right now. So myself and a gentleman, Mr. George B, will be doing a podcast that is centered around movies, films, documentaries. We'll eventually get to theater and possibly music as well once the world kind of expands a little bit more in terms of opening up some more. Because concerts are hard to review right now because people aren't really doing them full out. They're kind of doing like at home or, solo acoustic. But we'll talk incorporating them. And in terms of theater, same thing. Um, a lot of people aren't doing live theater. I've been a part of one, but once theater kind of gets on its feet again, then we'll be reviewing that as well. But the difference in this kind of review podcast of film, movie, TV, art, and in general, it is meant to connect us with the economical, the cultural, the historical value and connections to our community and our culture. Mainly, we'll be talking about Black cinema, Black TV, Black art, Black documentaries, and then we'll slowly kind of open it up. But we wanted to make sure we did a strong opening with content that is relevant to him and I, being two Black males. And we're both artists. We both in the educational realm. We're both actors. So we have a unique perspective, and that's what that podcast is going to be about. It's not going to interfere with the artist exchange, but I wanted to do something really specific and really niche, and just test out my my abilities. So that will be premiering. I'm not going to do that. I'll do it on. You can find it if you look up Facebook or Instagram. Find Binge Worthy Podcasts on Instagram as well as Facebook, and you'll see a bunch of clips on. We had a test show, so we did like a preview of it, and me and George kind of just had a conversation, and hopefully I can get him on Friday show or next Monday show, and we'll be able to have a conversation on said show. What else? So, anyway, I've been watching a lot of films. I said all that to say I've been watching a lot of film and a lot of television through a lot of streaming networks as well. And I purposely don't watch certain things because I know how it's going to make me feel, or I know what thought process it's going to kind of spark. And honestly, it's not that those feelings aren't already there, but you don't want to keep digging into something that you know is going to take you to a certain place, especially if that place isn't good, until you're ready to really deal with it. And I did that to a number of movies. Like I've never seen Fruitvale Station. I've never seen Black Panther. I've never seen what else? I just saw Queen and Slim. Um, it took me a minute to really watch um, Moonlight through, like all the way through it. I'm trying to think of some other films in that nature. What's another one? It took me a while to actually watch The Butler as well as The Help. I've watched both of them since then, but it took me a while to actually watch it. I couldn't watch it when it first came out. And I'm just trying to think of some other films that it really, it just took me a while because the nature of it. Salem, not Salem. I think it is Salem. The movie about them walking across the bridge. I think it is Salem. I believe so. But anyway, it just took me a minute to actually watch uh, movies like that. And recently, I've really been sitting on Queen and Slim. I wanted to watch it, but I just had a feeling it was going to make me have a visceral reaction to it, and it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't. I watched it, and it's an easy watch. I mean, it kind of flows. It doesn't take you all different places. It feels like a couple days, like a week or so. I think it was less than a week, the time frame in a movie, but it was very. I'm not gonna give you a full review because you got to watch Binge Worthy podcast. But it really, I don't know. It just made me feel things that I didn't want to feel again. Um, and despite that movie not being a depiction of a real life story, it was taking and inspired mostly by Trayvon Martin, and I forgot the other individuals that the writer kind of referenced, but it definitely referenced a lot of these police brutality movies. I'm not going to go into again a full review of it, but it really just made me think about where we are right now in our country, in our this where we are. And it's uncomfortable for me to be in the midst of a pandemic going through one of the toughest moments in our country politically as well as this pandemic. And we've been dealing with racial tension, and I believe we are building to a head. Uh, it coming to a head with this current election that we're in. I spoke a little bit Friday about how I felt um, after watching the leaked 60-minute interview with Trump, so much so that I wasn't able to watch the last debate between the two of them, between Biden and Trump. That leaked interview, I keep saying leaked because he decided to leak it, and it really wasn't that much more to see in that interview, but you could just see her asking the questions and feeling probably a little, feeling a little overwhelmed with interviewing him, and it really. I'm trying to see what Monty's trying to say. How is that my Aunt Diane? But just hi Aunt Diane. I believe that's my Aunt Diane. But just seeing how divisive he is, and I I forgot to send it to Marnie, but I had wrote my take on where we are right now because of Trump, and um, I wrote what I think is a good article, and I'm gonna proofread it and send it to Marnie so we can post it on our website. But I had just wrote an article based on me listening to him speak in that interview, because today I actually watched 60 minutes version of the interview, and like again, it wasn't really, but whoever was filming, someone was filming him do his, but they only kept the camera on him. They never put the camera on her, and that's really the only difference, because you can still hear her talking in his clip, but you also see Pence come in after Trump leaves out. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch the 60-minute interview, and it gives you a lot of insight, stuff that you didn't, there's stuff that we already know, but you hear him say it indirectly. His interview before Pence comes in for his part of the video, it ends with one of his aides bringing in this huge book that is supposed to be the new healthcare plan. And I can't remember her name right off the bat, but the interviewer says, I guess because they didn't get a chance to, and not, do I watch 60? I watch certain 60-minute interviews. I don't really watch them all. But in watching that one, she did a lot of speakovers throughout the whole thing. And she made mention to this book that he strategically brought in a room because he knew cameras were rolling. She said was filled with a lot of executive orders and information that is not conducive to him trying to get rid of Obama's plan. It was not, she said it was nothing in that whole book about oh my mind, about the actual healthcare plan. And I'm stuck on the healthcare plan because millions upon millions of people are at risk if the Supreme Court rules in his favor to abolish Obamacare. And sidebar, this is why he's trying to push his Supreme Court justice nomination through. He's trying to get her kind of rallied through. They've already broken protocol by not having any of the Democrats present when they voted on whether to push through with the nomination or the clearance rather. But it just amazes me that in the midst of a pandemic where people are dying at record numbers, daily and weekly, and not simply dying, but contracting this illness, and everybody has a different reaction to it. Some people, after they contract it, they don't have any outstanding or any noteworthy symptoms, and then it passes them by. Other people are in the hospital for weeks and months at a time, and then they're released. Most of the people are in that middle category, but a lot of people are dying a couple days after contracting it, and it is sad that he is pushing to eliminate a system that is at least getting us through this. It's not perfect. Obama said it's not perfect because at the time, many Republicans were not aiding him and creating this program to help people because they were too interested in their kickbacks from these pharmacy companies and healthcare companies and insurance companies. They were too busy trying to get kickbacks to focus on this could really help our country. And we spoke a lot about, on Friday we spoke with Tonia and Marnie about Boston having universal healthcare. And if a state can do it, I don't understand what's the issue with the country then being able to have this universal healthcare that is supportive of everybody. You know, I've had moments where I was in between a job, or I had finished a job to go to a new job, and I was in that interim period, and I may have, like, I don't get sick a lot. I normally it's normally something with my sinuses, and I often have had chest wall pains and such. But I would have to, I'd be in between that 90-day period, that grace period that a new job will give you to get insurance, and couldn't afford the other insurance to keep it going until that got passed. And I've had to go to the emergency room for what would normally be considered a primary caregiver's job. I would have to go to the emergency room to get seen, and many people were doing that. And I've spoken to a few emergency room not doctors, but nurses. Same thing. Um, and they've said they've seen, despite this pandemic that we're in right now, over the last like 6 or 7 years, they've seen a drastic decline in how many people are coming to the hospital for preventative care. And it costs many hospitals boatloads of money. You see hospitals that are really suffering, that there have been hospitals that closed down. I've seen recently here in Baltimore, where I'm at, I've seen hospitals be taken over by other hospitals because they couldn't, they just were losing money. They were going bankrupt. They were having too many issues financially. And a lot of people stem that from the emergency room, like that. The emergency room costs them a lot of money because people aren't able to afford healthcare. And that is, we're in a space where I'm listening to him speak on this interview, the 60-minute interview, and um, he is really disconnected from us in terms of the community. I don't even think it's white and black with him specifically, but I think it's a financial aspect to his speaking and his thoughts and opinions. And if you don't have the money, he really he's not paying attention to you. Even though he knows he needs those votes, he is on one hand pandering to those individuals while yet creating legislation and doing executive orders, signing executive orders that hurt the very people that he is pandering to, that he needs to get into office. Because rich people they either way we go, they gonna be okay. So he knows he needs the minority vote, the woman's vote, the black and Latino vote, and the young vote. He knows he needs those, but he's creating legislation that is consistently um, bashing us as a community, and restricting us. There's a lot of articles coming out now saying some of the executive orders that he's creating will eventually, whoever becomes president, well, if Biden becomes president, um, will be, it's going to feel like we're back when Obama first became president, and how this country was left in disarray. And basically, Obama and Biden and the administration had to rebuild this country. Well, some of the administration, because those Republicans did nothing for 8 years but complain and bitch and moan and create negative press towards and at Obama. Um, I'm really lost for words right now, because I can't imagine somebody who cares less. It feels like we're in one of those. Um, I don't want to say Hitler, because it hasn't gotten that bad, but if we don't collectively get together, it could possibly get to that point where we're dealing with a president who thinks that he's a dictator. He's already at the point of thinking he's a dictator, but it really says a lot about where we are as a country, that this type of energy, this type of leadership can go forth, and there's nothing put in place to stop him or prevent him. And I really am somewhat angry at the Democrats that are in leadership, the Green Party that is in leadership, the independents that are in leadership, that they aren't working together more. Instead of creating these sound bites on social media and posting, I need them to be in the office. I don't want any more strikes. I want people to be in the office doing their job, creating legislation, reaching out to their constituents and getting things done. And really letting people know the severity of what's going on. Everybody's keeping secrets and not letting the public know the damage that we're in right now. Because I think we're in more trouble than we really realize, and that is scary to me because I think of my four nieces who, one who is in her senior year of high school, and two that are still in elementary school that are really three that are still in elementary school that are. I just think about what does their future look like. Not that I'm dying, but I'm just thinking about them being so young and my niece about to be an adult and going into the world with this type of foundation. Um, and there are many people out there who are financially okay right now and not really don't have the concerns that I believe the majority has. And I believe life is going to hit them soon because the companies that they own, many of the individuals will be that work with those companies, and maybe the clients of those companies will be affected. So, you can think all you want to, and I've been, going at people all weekend long that are, I'm gonna have a bag regardless. But if your client's bag is affected, then your bag is affected. You know, I don't care what industry you work in, people in that industry, a large group of those people will be affected if healthcare um, goes, if Obamacare is eliminated, if the economy begins to, and people are saying that the economy is growing, unemployment is decreasing, but the jobs that are coming back are jobs that have not been effective and have been almost overworking their employees, these 9 to 5 jobs, these, I can't even say 40-hour week jobs. They're coming back and a lot of the uh, people who are working at these companies are really still struggling. And what aside from all of this, one of the things that I am really noticing is there are a lot of young people who are. It's kind of hard to say that they're in support of Trump, but they are totally against Biden for some of the negative seeds that Trump has put out there against Biden. And I'm nervous because it's a growing number of people. And a lot of those people used to sit behind and not speak out. And then we would see the results come election day or when a vote is needed. But a lot of those people are speaking out now. And you see a lot of the gaps in between the people because you have your 50 Cent and I want to say Ice Cube, and many people will dispute that, but you have many individuals like him who are arguing towards their bank accounts and not necessarily their community. Many of those people have forgotten what it is like to struggle. And when I speak of struggle, it's not just I don't have enough money to get me through, but a lot of people in our school system here, we just had over 400 auxiliary employees and teaching artists and resource teachers that were fired at the beginning of a school year. So how do you have projected that you're going to be working this amount of hours and, holidays are coming up and you fire that many people? And I understand with the school system because schools aren't physically open. So financially, it becomes a burden to pay people. And but yet and still, we still have the money to do things. I'm looking at a lot of the money that's being spent on these campaigns and the amount of money that they put into one young lady here. I think the young lady that is up against Kwesi and Fume, she sent out these lanyards with pens in them. And I'm saying, how much money did she spend on that? How much money did she spend doing that out of a budget? Like that money could have gone in terms of the people who gave her money. That money could have went to programming to help people get through this. You know, there are a lot of people who are suffering right now in terms of their rent, in terms of utilities, and trying to balance it all. You know, they haven't given a second stimulus check. And speaking of the stimulus check, and not just that, but the the unemployment tack on that they added at the beginning of this and recently took away. Many people are feeling that they are more prosperous right now in in Trump's presidency than they've ever been, and they say that in a way as if Trump gave them something. A lot of these people don't know this time next year, many of them are going to be struggling to pay that tax bill that they have because of all of this free money that they've gotten. All of these businesses that have been started and such. And a lot of these people are probably making more money because they got those stimulus payments, and they're not necessarily reporting a lot of the income that is coming from the businesses that they started. So they feel like, well, I'm good. But next year it's going to be a different story when we get those tax bills. I was shocked this year because I've never had to pay this much in taxes before. I've never had to pay this much in taxes. And that's somebody who has dedicated himself to nonprofits and the educational field. Like, I don't feel like I don't necessarily have to do my part, but somebody who has invested as much time in a system, a biotax shouldn't look like that. It shouldn't look, or my income should reflect my taxes. And I don't feel like this year my taxes reflected my income at all. But as an artist, I've kind of prepared myself for that a long time ago. I don't know. Today just feels different. It feels difficult. It feels like I don't know what the next couple weeks, because I think it's less than 2 weeks now. We're almost at less than a week, and I just feel something has to give. Something has to give. Something has actually. Today is the 26th. It's next week. So next week, a week and a day. I feel like we are. I'm really trying to watch my words because I don't want them to come across mean or angry or and I don't want them to counteract my level of faith. But just listening to a lot of these people speak, it's really, I can say it's scary. I won't lose hope because I feel like we're gonna pull through, but it's just scary, and it feels like through the skin of our teeth we're gonna get out of this current administration. We're gonna get out of it because I don't think we could handle 4 more years. I really don't. And I think those wealthy individuals will also understand, especially a lot of these celebrities and entertainers that are coming out on behalf of Trump or are speaking about this tax hike that they are saying Biden is going to give to those making over $400,000. I feel.
What celebrities came out?
Well, 50 Cent recently.
Oh, he don't count.
A couple.
Never mind. You ain't got to talk about him.
Yep, I mean, but at the same
ain't nobody
time,
following
I feel
him.
like.
That's my point. Why I say that.
You said what?
Ain't nobody following behind him. It's not like
Well, the ones who are following behind him are these young people who are now against Biden. There's a lot of, and especially black men. I haven't seen many black women speak out. They are those, but a lot of business owners, a lot of people who want to be in that 1% or that next level tax bracket are speaking out. You know, a lot of people who are probably getting over what people already are speaking out. I just there are a lot of young people who are impressionable, who are old enough to vote, who will not vote because they feel like their voices are being heard, and they're watching people like this. Well, if 50 Cent doing it, 50 Cent has a following. He has a following. And if you look at the people who follows a power, a lot of them, they following 50 Cent. I don't watch the show, but I'm just nervous because I'm seeing a growing number of people speak out now. I'm glad we can see the faces. We're starting to be able to see the faces, but I'm just concerned.
I'm not.
And that's.
I'm not concerned.
Why?
Because
do you think we're gonna have enough?
I don't know. I think that the coalition is. I think the coalition is set and packed. Now the difference in whether we have enough or whether we have the same end result as we had in 2016 is the question, where we win the popular vote but not the electoral college. That's what I. But
you're saying about. We don't worry about that anymore. Well, we're not worrying about.
Well, it's not the same thing, because you can still have more votes in total, but not win the states. So, say for instance, in Florida, he can win the states by having more votes in Florida, but not have more votes in South Carolina, not have more votes in North Carolina, or run the gamut, have more votes all the way across the country, but not win those states because he had more votes in each state to win the electoral college.
So I'm okay. So this is what is confusing me. So has the electoral college? The electoral college hasn't been done away with.
No,
it's just changed how they have to vote. So they have to go with the popular vote.
They have to go with the popular vote of the state.
So that's the part that. So I'm not nervous that he's not going to win. I'm just nervous that some of these people who want to be what they call an anarchist or just want to be contrary are going to go out there and write in Kanye or write in some, like our governor, our illustrious governor claimed he wrote in Reagan, and instead of the two people who are on the ballot.
Right. Again, and when you vote off like that, that's the same thing as voting for the person that you oppose.
Right. So that I guess that's how I'm understanding what you're saying right now in terms of him getting more votes. And may be more popular, and he may be more popular, but
because the balance of electoral college votes is off. So, say for instance, you take the state like Texas that has like 40 electoral college votes. Right. If you win that state, then you've earned 40 votes. Right. If he wins that state, he wins 40 votes. But now you go to Gambit, where Maryland has 10. That's guaranteed 10 if he wins the state. But say for instance he gets 6. I mean, he gets the majority of the votes, then our state automatically goes red.
You mean if Trump gets more?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Right. So it depends on those states that has more electoral college, like Iowa and all those states like that. That's why they're the states that you have to actually campaign for. Those are the toss-up states. If you get those states, you're guaranteed to be the president, basically. Iowa and Ohio and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those states matter.
I'm just concerned that the voting.
Even like Michigan, which used to be a blue state. Michigan was a blue state. Right. It turned red in 2016. And it was only by 10,000 votes. That's what I mean by that differential. It could be 10,000. He could still, it could be almost 50-50. But if he get that 400, say for instance, only 400 votes over, that state's now red still.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff matters. And then you lost a whole entire set of electoral college votes, which will bring your total down. And you got to have 270.
So after this last debate, where do you think the country is?
I don't think the last debate gave us. I actually don't feel as though the last debate meant anything. I didn't watch it for to think they was going to deliver anything that they haven't already to deliver. For me, anyway, because but I'm also speaking as somebody that's already voted. But I could have not watched that last debate. I actually wanted them to cancel it. It wasn't necessary. We didn't get anything new out of it. Like they keep talking about this. They call it a fumble for what Biden said about fracking. I don't think that was a fumble. I think that was accurate. He wants to phase out fracking. Not now, but soon. It needs to go away. We are destroying the planet. That was the whole point of climate change, is that we stop doing stuff that's destroying the planet. And he wants to do renewable energy, wind, solar, whatever the case may be, to get us away from destroying the planet. And he said by 2050.
I think a lot of people in the voting world, in terms of people who are able to vote, I don't think they know what that means.
I don't think they do either. They heard was he was going to get rid of fracking. That's all they heard. No, that is the plan. We are going to get rid of fracking.
They've learned how to use this terminology to make it seem like it's a negative thing that he's getting rid of it.
Right.
In terms of, I just don't.
They would say, well, that's thousands of jobs. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. Exactly. Now it's time for y'all to learn something new. Why don't you go work in wind? Why don't you go work in solar? It's time to do something different, because you are killing people. You are killing the world.
Yeah.
You're pulling stuff from out of the ground that is not supposed to happen.
But the word came up, and I think a lot of people, because Biden said he wanted to get rid of it, it just felt like people was like they wanted to make it a negative thing and not understand, because none of us in Baltimore works for anything.
But that was where the moderator should have stepped in too. I agree that the moderator should have stepped in, because she let Trump say, look at him, he's trying to get rid of your jobs, he's trying to take away your oil. Okay, what do you mean? You're absolutely right, because that's a giant carbon footprint right there.
Right.
You are pulling up stuff out of the ground that's not supposed to come out of the ground to use it for your cars that are burning and putting more carbon in the air.
And like this, over the umpteen years now, that whole idea of oil has been a war term. Like it's gotten us into wars.
Exactly.
We need to get away from it.
And that's why they, for the past 10 years, we have been trying to get out of using gasoline vehicles and start to put more electric vehicles in production. And his plan is very defined in that. If you go, when you go to his website and check out it, I think it's Biden for America, whatever it is.
Biden.
And you go on that plan. His plan is very detailed, that they want to create 4,000 charging stations all across America, and all this other kind of stuff that will replace gas stations and things like that.
My problem with Biden is Biden isn't going hard on it like that.
Right.
He's not really explaining the plan.
But see, what also threw him off?
People in the dark.
What also threw him off that night is because that wasn't a question from the moderator.
Yeah.
That was something that he threw out. He just brought up and threw it in there. Like, he wants to take away your fracking. And that wasn't the question from the moderator.
And that's and I'm hearing a lot of, I'm gonna say, second tier and below media outlets that don't know what that means. I don't think they are connecting fracking with environmental issues.
No,
I don't think
they're not
connecting the word.
It's so funny that there's now like a campaign commercial that's out right now that said they had this guy being interviewed on there saying that if he takes away our jobs, what are we going to do? We got to pull the oil from the ground, and it tell you how they do the process and all that kind of stuff, which is why I believe fracking is the cause of all the earthquakes. You are upsetting the ground underneath of us, and everything is starting to shift
because of fracking.
Do you know they push pressurized water? They push pressurized water under the ground so it'll force the oil to come up to the surface. While you're doing that, you are now shifting pressurized water that is cutting through rock Where's that land that you done shifted going to go? It's going to move and crush itself. And that's where earthquake comes in. The vibrations is what create the earthquake.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not the smartest people on the planet, so it can't be rocket science for somebody else to figure that out.
But it's something as simple as wildfires. We're not understanding, like, okay, we keep suffering from these wildfires. As you said before, why don't we just put sprinklers through
irrigation? Why don't we have irrigation everywhere? Like, why haven't we built a man-made river and ran it through the forest? Mm-hmm. That would even help to keep the ground saturated, keep the trees from drying out. Put a man-made river there. Like, I am not the scientist here. Why do I have to fix this problem from the East Coast to the West Coast?
Well, that's one of the reasons that grassroots organizations are so important. But they've turned into more special interest groups, which they are, but special interest has turned into a negative thing because it becomes about the money.
The interesting part is that, like I just made that suggestion about making a man-made river that will saturate the ground and keep the water flowing, because then that becomes a natural spring. You've just created a natural spring. That's naturally clean water that never makes it to the ocean. Just keep it recycling. Every time it rains, it fills.
I don't think a lot of people who are voting or who are undecided in this moment understand what that term, because I stopped hearing environmental and I kept hearing fracking. So that made me look it up and understand what they were talking about. But then I was saying, well, why are they making it seem like, because all Biden would have to say is, well, how many, oil jobs have you created? How many coal mining jobs have you brought back? Like,
how many people are dead from oil jobs? Right, how many people have died from working in the oil industry? How many people have definitely died from black lung in the coal industry? Why do you still want to do this work?
But we brought all of that up during the Obama administration.
Exactly.
All that had been
when
brought
he kept
up
saying he wanted to phase this out, and then he got you health care so we can help you with your pre-existing condition of black lung.
I still remember that. I can't remember the show name, but I remember a TV show that Obama was on towards the end of his administration that showed where the ice cap was when he first became president versus now.
Right.
And the field looked like it was spring.
And we still haven't reversed course from that. The interesting part is that is not even spoke about enough, because we still haven't reversed course from that, from Greenland almost being melted completely to our Antarctica starting to melt. We were just talking about that on the other day, where I said, do you know they had their first 100? It's never been 100 degrees in Antarctica.
No.
100 degrees in a frozen tundra?
Yeah.
That's not possible. It's not even supposed to be happening.
People, I think currently we're kind of, it don't feel like a normal again, but this has been the first time in a number of years that the temperature is somewhat normal and almost normal for the season.
Oh, for right now. Right. Correct. Yeah.
It's been a long time since we had a normal spring.
But which makes me fear that we're getting ready to get blizzards. Because you don't just normalize.
Say that.
You just don't normalize like this. You just don't normalize to normal temperatures.
And the effects of this on people's, like, even for me, like Friday, I was really in a dark, and me and you have talked about this. Like, I'm not saying I was waiting for it, but I was definitely in a dark space Friday. And I feel like if this continues on like this pandemic and then we get blizzards on top of that, it's gonna be mentally, people are gonna be affected by this. And I haven't had any suicidal thoughts, but I felt like really like very low energy, very low, like normally I could be creative and I can, think around things. And last week, by the time I got to Friday, I was just done. Literally, I just did nothing this weekend. If it wasn't computer related, I just didn't want to do it, and I know it's kind of a stretch to kind of connect all these things together, but
it all comes back to climate change. It all comes back to climate. So it's not strange.
But
all of this comes back to climate. Even the pandemic, I believe, comes back to climate. We've done so much to this planet in the last 100 years. This planet is reacting to us.
Yeah.
We are making the planet sick. We are the virus on this planet, and this planet is trying to cure itself.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that are trying to help it. Like a friend of mine, Shar Johnson, like they're starting new farms around the city and in urban places. So people are trying to get back to a certain, but it's still a lot of pushback from other parts of government. And
believe it or not, I believe this is the same thing that happened to the dinosaurs. We keep talking about a Big Bang happened. I don't believe that crap. I think this planet said you ate all the vegetation off the planet and then you started eating yourselves. We're going to get rid of you and start over with a different species. And that was us.
Not get over.
They ate every plant life. They ate all the plant life and then they started eating themselves. Because how do you explain if it's something that wiped out the dinosaurs? How do you explain the sea creatures?
Yeah.
Because you can't. How do you explain we got fish and all that kind of stuff? They had to be prehistoric at one time.
Well, Marnie, I want you to keep that fantasy for yourself. You know,
I'm a
that's
fixer.
not my fantasy. That's not.
I call myself a fixer these days. I'm a fixer.
I mean, but I find myself being in that same because I started writing. Finally, I think that's my first article that you've been asking for.
Yeah, right.
But I was so angry. I was so angry after watching that 60-minute. And I don't know if you watched either of
I
the
watched some
versions
clips of it today, and on CNN.
You watched the 60-minute version of it?
No, CNN was actually going over the questions that she had asked him. And was basically talking in a sense like, why did he really get upset? These weren't hard questions and they weren't out of scope. But why did he get upset about it?
You know who I need to interview him? I need what's Oprah's? I need Gail. This is what the hell we need Gail for. Leave the Cosbys and the Kellys alone. I need her to interview Trump because I need her to be as stern with Trump as she's been with these black men that she's put on blast. That's who I need. All these little scared moderators and interviewers that they keep pushing in front of him because they know he can intimidate.
The real person I really would like to meet for him to interview him, I need circa 2005 Wendy Williams.
See, he gonna get up and walk away from Wendy Williams.
Huh?
He gonna get up and walk away from a Wendy Williams because Wendy Williams is not good at tricking people. She's good at evoking emotion and getting people angry. The reason I said Gail because Gail can be so calm, and then you'll wind up exploding, and you don't even know how you got there. Like, I think Gail should have been a prosecutor. I really do. I think she should have been I think she missed her calling. But I just need somebody that's not afraid of him to interview him.
Right.
She was stumbling through questions and she would say, sir, no. And I like the 60-minute version of it because you see her attempting to fact check him. And then she's talking over the actual interview. And she's saying, well, right here, this is false and this is not right. And this is correct. But it angered me to the point of, and I was already in a dark space, but watching that, because at the end of her version, the 60-minute version, you see one of his aides bringing in this big fake book that is supposed to be the new healthcare plan.
Right.
And she says she does a speakover that says this book has nothing in it about healthcare. It's a bunch of executive orders and nonsense, and it has no information
right, because
about
who prints
plan.
out all those pages for your healthcare bill to hand somebody a binder with your healthcare bill in it, killing all those damn trees
while the cameras are on,
killing all those damn trees just to bring in a book.
Right.
When you can send this to me in a PDF, you could have sent this to me in a PDF.
Right. But you have this big of a book,
right? You wasted my taxpayer money to go print this out, knowing that y'all probably don't even have a printer in your office. You had to send it down the street to get it printed, and then
and bind it,
and then you bring it in here as if I had got my hands on it, and I probably flip the pages on it. Majority of the pages are blank.
Right. And I just ask the people that are watching right now, where are you in terms of not necessarily where's your vote going, but where are you with where our country is right now? Because regardless of who is going into office, we're about to struggle like we've never struggled before. And I feel I
almost wanted to comment on what you said about people might be struggling next year when it comes to their money and stuff like that.
Taxes.
Because it's not even really taxes that are, where people are getting boasted up right now. It's because you don't have really large expenses at this time, meaning that you're paying all the regular expenses, but you're not paying for transportation because you ain't got to go to work because you're working at home. You ain't paying for a whole bunch of stuff that is allowing you to have all this extra money that you should be utilizing in constructive ways, and try to maybe prop something else up that you probably wish you could have did in the past and now it's present. But that will go away once we get this pandemic under control. And again, like you said, hopefully you have already set those things in place that'll keep you in financial stability. But again, the real thing is that your transportation needs are going to come back, because you're going to have to go to work. You're going to have to go to school. You're going to have to get that babysitter again. You're going to have a daycare provider. You're going to have all those things. But that's not even, I think that's a part of the country. But then there's another part of the country who they've been going to work this whole time. That's what I'm saying. Me, I've been going to work all this whole time, but I'm at home. Right. And I don't have the expenses that I had when I was before this. That their day-to-day life didn't change. And not to mention that I can't travel like I used to do. So I got all that money sitting in my account. Yeah. But I see those people are the ones who aren't affected. And this being transparent, I've gotten through this, but I'm an individual, I'm single. But I feel like I've been trying my hardest to just not make more bills. And not and just try to live as minimal as possible in this moment, because it's just me and I'm an artist. So the money I go out and make is the money that I have. It's not, I don't have a lot of residual income, because that income then goes back into, me being able to be available at this moment, or me being able to create. And, it worries me only for us as a whole, because even those people, business owners who feel like, well, I've stashed something aside. Your employees didn't necessarily weren't able to afford to do that. Right. So now you're gonna be shuffling through, your retention rate is gonna be out of whack, because now you will have to be replacing employees because they can't afford to do certain things, or they don't have any health insurance. So they don't feel, they got sick and died, knock on wood, but things are going to be out of sorts. And even if people are comfortable, the people you work for may not be that comfortable, and it's nobody's fault. I'm not saying you should help your neighbor out. You should, but in this moment, it's hard. I don't know I've never been at a loss to what to do, and I'm my creativity is like I'm pulling at it at this point. And I feel like it's going to come back, but I just need it to be the third. I need the votes to be tallied by the second. I just need everything. I hope these long lines will result in us having the results a lot sooner, and we're not sitting here waiting and anticipating another week after like we did months ago. I just want us to be better, even on a local level. I don't feel like on a local level we good, and that's what counts. I think people aren't voting on a local level right now. They're not thinking about that. Well, you kind of have no choice. I mean, to complete, because when you turn in your ballot, it has to be complete. Yeah, but we focus so much of our time talking about this one office that we don't realize all the other offices that are also up for election. And then you like, well, who the hell are these people? Because I only heard about this one and that one, and who the hell is this right here? And I don't know. wonder if that's coming to your house.
That's another ambulance. Bless whoever's at the other end of it. But I just don't know where to be. I don't know where my energy should be, or I voted. Does that relieve me for up until the 3rd? Should I, because I voted, I have taken myself out of the day-to-day checking where we are and what's being said and who's in the. I've taken myself out of that, and I think it helped me to have had voted, but I'm just listening to conversations, and it's scary to me where people priorities are lying. People down there, people are picketing to get their children back into school while other schools are closing because a number of people have caught COVID. And they still want their children to go back to school. They still want other people's children to go back to school. But I'm worried. I'm worried for reasons that are I guess beyond my control at this moment. But I really want to know how many people have already voted. You wrote it.
Oh, 60 million.
60 million. But today was our first day. Today was our first day for early
voting. Right, ma'am. But 60 million.
And those lines.
60 million mail-in ballots.
She took a video in line.
60 million. That's the combination of 60 million mail-in ballots and all the early states, all the people that could early vote in other states. It's been 60 million. So if we're going off of that number, then we got roughly another 60, 75 million to go.
I hope more people get out and surprise vote, but we don't know how many people mailed in their ballots. We don't know what that number was. I want everything free.
Well, we've already beat it was roughly 30 million mail-in ballots last year, so we've already exceeded that by double.
That's been turned in already.
Yes.
That excites me. The lines excite me.
The lines really excite me, especially for this early in the game, because you're not typically used to having long lines during early voting anyway.
And with the pandemic too, they were showing flashes of the sites that were open, and my friend was doing videos, and I was shocked at how many people that early were out to vote. And the lines were long, and it didn't look like the lines were really moving that fast.
I need? I need for them to ask their president what he defines as the economy, because I don't think he understands economics, period. And I keep trying to go back to that, because this man is not smart. He's not an intelligent man.
I keep saying that. Y'all keep saying,
and I don't think he even understands what economics is. Because the only thing he goes off of with economics is that the fact that the stock market is doing well, and that has nothing to do with the economy. That's a portion of the economy. That is not the economy. Right. When companies fail, it doesn't shut down the whole world. Because the economy is basically how much we are getting paid in our pockets, not what the stock market is doing. Because we are the spenders. The people are the spenders. The companies are not.
Right. Yeah, but that's part of, even here, our governor is going into our rainy day fund to give to businesses. And I think that's the dumbest thing that you could do. Why not just spread that out over our state in terms of giving it back to the people? Because ultimately we're spending our money. And I made that comment Friday, we have been keeping restaurants and stores floating right now, the ones that did open back up.
Right.
We've been keeping them floating. So why then give them more money? You giving these businesses money, they got a lot of the PPP loans. Now you go and give them more, and it's not going directly to the employee. My issue in terms of the economic issue with Trump is he's looking at these businesses like Walmart and such that are opening up, or stores that reopened up or did not close. He's looking at that as the jobs that were added, but no new jobs were added. Stores just put the open sign on. They didn't create new jobs.
Right.
And in fact,
they just came back to work.
A lot of people were laid off.
Yeah, and they just came back to work. But we're not done with the layoffs because, the airline industry is still not back to what it's supposed to be, and they're ready to lay off another 20-something thousand people.
Look at the educational system.
Disney's getting ready to lay off another 15,000
close to 500
people.
Of staff, faculty, and auxiliary employees were fired from our own school system. This here in Baltimore City.
And we already know, we just heard today that, the stock market drops at almost 1,000 points. I didn't look at the final number. But that was because the stimulus package wasn't done. So I told y'all in the beginning on my show not to hold your breath. Because I kind of agree with how Pelosi's handling this. Unfortunately, I know you're waiting for money and all that kind of stuff, but you give Republicans an inch and they're going to take a mile because they're power hungry and they hold all the cards.
But it's scary because, part of that article that I was writing was more so, it did not dawn on me at first, but just out of the blue, came together for me that his push for this new Supreme Court justice is directly connected to him getting rid of Obamacare.
Exactly.
With no plan.
Right.
With no plan, though, in the middle of a pandemic where we need health insurance.
Right.
Like, we need it.
Just in case you get it.
We're going to have
just in case you get it.
Piled up on top of each other in the emergency room.
Just in case you get it.
There's going to be a line coming out of the emergency room.
Exactly.
But he has no plan. He has no. If you look at that interview, she kept saying, "What is your plan for people with She didn't ask about the healthcare plan, and she said, "What is your plan for people with pre-existing conditions?" He said, "We have one. They're gonna get the same treatment they got," and he just kept repeating that one line. But she kept saying, "How are they gonna keep their insurance? How? Are you going to freeze their insurance and just connect that to whatever you have? Or what's the alternative?" And it just sounds like millions of people without insurance that will not be able to then go get insurance because now these insurance companies will be able to say, "Nope, you have a pre-existing condition."
Exactly.
Or they'll call it something else. I just never, I think I lived through Bush, the end of the first Bush, Clinton, and I've never felt this before. Like I've never felt so anxious or had so much anxiety about issues that should be very simple. Save these people's lives. Okay, so I'm gonna just call the Obamacare Trump care. I'm gonna change one thing and I'm gonna just call it Trump care. I would rather you do that than to be physically fighting in court right now to eliminate something and you don't even have a plan. You don't. And It's just gonna be the same. He's gonna bring out the same thing that we already have. The only glitch is pre-existing conditions are gonna be null and void.
Yep.
It's gonna be what I just know it's gonna be the same thing. Everything that's gonna be called something with a T in it. Trump rebate, Trump whatever. And I don't understand how people, and I can't even say that they don't understand it, but people can clearly see what he's doing. But it took 50 Cent and I'm not going to say Ice Cube anymore because he didn't really speak about money, but somebody like a 50 Cent basically saying, I'm choosing Trump because I don't want to pay this much in taxes, which I get because the taxes in New York and California, and I believe, what was the other state? Was it, I don't remember what I would say. They was like over 60%, but you make enough money to be able to do that. So you wipe out all the people that watch a show, that get you those ratings, that get you those. So you wipe out all those people, and we all just die off. Who go watch a show? Then you go be in the food stamp line.
But you see with the timing of this, right? You see the timing of them complaining because they weren't complaining. This has always been the mission: is to raise taxes on people over $400,000. That's always been the mission. Like, and then if you got expenses to obfuscate what you owe, it shouldn't be a problem. This shouldn't even be a talking point. It's only probably going to go back up to 28%. It's only 20. It's 21 now. It probably go back to what it was, 28% at the most, if not 35. And your issue is paying your fair share for the income that you've earned. I don't get it. Like, what's your problem? But again, we could always, like I said, we could always fix this issue because the issue is in the finance, right? The issue is in the financing of government, because I've always believed that the government should be running these campaigns. You see what I'm saying? They're not running them, but funding the campaigns. So they could take the funding, the money for. We were just talking about this the other day. $400,000 in the bank in cash is $400 million. I'm sorry, $400 million in cash is what Biden had in his bank account, and then Trump had $365 million in his cash for his campaign. Why? That's $700 million to run for president. Are you kidding me?
Right now, I'm interested to know, what are you doing with that money now?
It shouldn't be that way. Like, why do we have all this money to convince you to be president? Right. That's like you're buying it all. You are actually buying a president.
That's what's the young lady that's running towards Kwasi Fume? I went downstairs. Yeah, so I went downstairs, and on my door was in a baggie, there was like a little lanyard with a pen in it. And I was like, how much did this sleeve cost for you to put the lanyard in, for you to put the pen in? How much did that cost? And they were bragging about how she just brought in $6.4 million into her campaign. And I was saying, well, where's this? I don't want a pen. What do I need a pen for? You aren't a business. You are running for a governmental office.
Where you are not a business. Turn around and get paid again, and you also keep your campaign keeps that money. It's not like you turn it over.
So when but they're not allowed to use it.
No, but she can still spend it. She can still spend it in her office. That would not be a violation of campaign finance. So when she
wins, what if she doesn't win? What happens to the money then?
That is a great question. I have no idea. Actually, she can save it. She don't have to do anything with it. She can save it for if she want to run again.
But she's not allowed. I wonder if she's not allowed.
She can give it to another candidate.
To
return it to the DNC, or in her case, the RNC.
But it wasn't their money.
Right, but it doesn't belong to anybody no more. It's a contribution. You contributed. It now belongs to her campaign. Wow.
That money should then go back to the shithole community that she is representing.
I do believe they can do stuff like that though. Like they can buy a playground and all that kind of stuff like that. That's never going to happen.
Their name on
they're going to take that money and recycle it and put it into other people's campaigns. That's what they're going to do.
It should be strict laws about. It should be a certain amount of money that you can.
It shouldn't be no money. Raise. You should have to turn in a reimbursement form to the government. Department of Elections or whatever the department should be. It needs to be a new department that handles the finance of campaigns. Because we need to get this money out of these campaigns, because that's how dirty tricks happen. That's how you hold people accountable for lying. Because now you own your campaign, you own all the money, you say whatever the hell you want to just convince somebody to vote for you. And that's not right.
Yeah.
Facts matter. And we should not be determining what the facts are. The facts should be nailed in stone. Period.
And people don't normally say anything about your campaign finances until they're running against you.
Or until you do something wrong and you get caught.
Yeah.
Until you find that prostitute that you done paid with campaign finance money and you got caught.
Like Stormy.
Like Stormy.
Like Stormy. She was paid with campaign finance. Well, she was actually paid with the foundation's money, not with the campaign. Well, with Trump, it's probably all in one box.
I just don't understand. How many people have to die before you start to care? How many people have to die before you start to care?
I'm gonna see if I can get Joshua back on. He's the vice president of the Maryland NAACP.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
I'm gonna ask him because I'm really curious as to. I didn't know during your campaign if you win the office, you can use that for within your office. But I'm really curious as to know if you don't win, what has to happen with the money? Like, do you have to send it back to your parties?
You have a final return that you have to do, and then you can still use it as far as your outreach. So when you're raising money for your office, because you still got to raise, you still got money that you have to raise. Like, say for instance, you're in the House of Representatives, you still have to raise money to continue to work, basically.
You have to raise money.
Yeah, you got to raise money for the DNC. Like if you're a Democratic representative, you have to raise money for the DNC. It's part of your duties.
And it just goes into the pot?
Right. So they can support other people's campaigns. That's what you have to do. You have to become a salesperson, really.
So I'm just wondering, like, why they gave Hillary so much flack for writing a check to the DNC.
That's the funny part.
When that's what she would have had to do that anyway.
Interesting.
But she just took it out of her own pocket.
Or if anybody should be in charge of the money, it should be your convention. So the Democratic convention should be in charge of the money, or the Republican convention should be in charge of the money. I mean, that's where they shop for money too. Somebody other than the campaign to be in charge of the money.
But yeah, but I don't even think that the DNC or RNC or Green NC, I don't think. I
just never like the fact that money has anything to do with elections of our leadership. Why is money involved in our leadership?
That's why more people don't run for office because they almost get priced out. Like, I can't afford to run.
Right. Like I've
probably
never
some
liked
qualified people.
Because money shouldn't qualify you to be president. It shouldn't just how much money you collect should not qualify you to be president. Because that's not how our tax system works.
I like how Facebook eliminated them from being able to promote on their platform.
Because that's not how our tax system works.
That.
Our tax system doesn't say, all right, so you got this much money, you don't got to pay taxes no more. That's not how it works. You got to pay taxes regardless.
Because I hate how even on our local elections, how they run these campaigns. Like, I just don't.
That's what TV. And what that leads to. That's why I say I hate it, because if it was taxpayer funded, so say for instance it was the Department of Elections, and it was taxpayer funded, there's more accountability there.
Right.
I should be able to hold you accountable for the lies that you have spread. Right now, there's no accountability besides trying to take it to Congress. But if I stop paying you, if I vote to decrease the amount of money you receive into your campaign coffers, then that should be the deciding factor. But we don't have anything. We have no control over how much money they collect from these corporations, how much money they get from foreign entities.
Well, I thought it was a cap off or how much
not
people could give you.
Not anymore.
So that's
how much an individual can give you? Yes.
Yeah, how much an individual can give you.
But that's where super PACs come into play. People will create a super PAC.
So they give it to you as an organization,
right?
Exactly.
When you get a group of people, that becomes a super PAC.
It's dangerous. I never I think it should be an independent, ongoing government office that takes care of the money. Like,
I don't think they should collect money, period. It shouldn't be no collection of money. It should be a taxpayer funded mission. If you want to run for president,
it already is.
Well, no, it's not really. It's not really, because it is because of the contribution aspect, but you have no control with it being a money that's coming from the internal revenue to your campaign. That's something, or the Department of Treasury to your campaign. That's something different.
But I
don't think it should be coming from the Treasury, because the president, the incumbent, will be in charge of that. It needs to be a separate department that's independently ran, but that is a government entity, like the CDC or something like that. Where there's a budget.
And there's a paper trail.
There's a paper trail. That's what I mean. They got to submit reimbursement. They got to submit a form of reimbursement on what you spent.
But what the reason I wouldn't like that is because a lot of those multi-millionaire billionaires that tried to run in this election, they would be the only ones running. Because honestly, you know, if
because there is no money.
They wouldn't.
There is no money. Even if you got all the money in the world, it wouldn't matter because you would not be able to use it in your campaign.
See,
because there would be no funding because what you're getting reimbursed on is what you've actually done, and you have to go to that department in the government to get your money. I don't care if you're a billionaire or not. If you qualify for president, that's when you've applied to whatever this Department of Elections is called, and you've got your name on a ballot.
A part of me doesn't, because that becomes
because it puts everybody on equal footing. Taxes. It puts everybody on equal footing. If I was the day person, say if I was to run, I don't have the money that Trump has. I don't have the money that Bloomberg has. But if I apply, we all get the same opportunity to run the same campaign, and we get the same amount of funding. And then that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You might have on a nicer suit than me because you are a billionaire, but your money plays no role in the election. Your experience does.
And I agree with what you're saying. The part that I will then have an issue with is that would be another reason to raise taxes, because now we're paying for elections.
But we would, again, yes, initially that would be, but we would have to find another revenue stream, because that's what we lack now. We don't have a lot of revenue streams that bring in revenue that help decrease our taxes. That's how we fund things. It's either we got to raise taxes or decrease taxes to fund things. And that's the sad part about it. We need other revenue streams from a governmental status, a governmental stature, to bring in revenue streams outside of taxing your people.
But that, like, I say that here, like, there was supposed to be like a rowboat kind of touristy attraction at Drew Hill Park. And I don't see that getting done. Like, that would have been revenue to, one, pay for the park, pay for the zoo, pay for, civic works.
Isn't that what they're working on now? That's what they're working on.
Yeah, but how many years have that been going on?
It takes time. It's a lot of water over there, Nate. It's not like building a building. They got to excavate the ground. They got to make sure the ground is not going to be too saturated that it'll implode the whole entire neighborhood.
That's been
science.
Too many years.
I mean, but that's science. That's not build. That's
science.
That's not building.
But it should not take all these years, though.
But it kind of has to. You know how much water it takes to saturate a ground of that size?
I get it, but
and you know how far they dug?
Years.
They had to dig down deep.
Wallace Blake project.
But it was already set that it wasn't going to end until 2024. Because they got to bring in fresh water to fill that reservoir back up. And where do you get that from? The Liberty Reservoir don't even have that much water in it as it is.
No, but they didn't. It's not the whole water. Like they basically created a dam and just opened up looked like 1/4 of it.
Right. But that's not staying that way. They are going to open that other second half back up, but they had to excavate and clean it. Because of what you want. You wanted to be able to paddleboard across it, I guess. I remember back in the day we used to swim in it, but it was cleaner. It was cleaner back then.
I don't believe
it was more like it was an actual lake.
No, not with
and then they put all that metal. That's what they had to do. They had to remove all that metal they put in the bottom of it to keep people from swimming in it.
I know it was a lot of babies in that pool.
Gross.
That's disgusting.
But what that would do though, this Department of Elections, it would open up the elections to a broader base, meaning more candidates. That's our problem. We keep seeing the same people running that have been in office or out of office or on the top tier stage for decades. If we get some more people that are just intelligent, if we get some intelligence worked in here, Like neither one of our candidates right now are really intelligent people. Like they don't have any smarts. They're not scientists. They're only politicians or rich people. We need some scientists. We need some doctors. We need some other people that can get in this field that can actually do some good.
Yeah, but like we've seen in Trump's administration, I need for your experience to match what office you're going in.
Again, our whole entire Congress is made up of doctors and lawyers and nurses and people that used to be teachers. Again, like we could point at Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren should be up. She should have been up there.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren should have been up there. Kamala should have been up there. You know, all these people that we thought weren't adequate enough that Biden would win over Trump. They should have had a better opportunity because they have been speaking the most.
Well, I'm going to say I voted for Kamala. That's who I wanted to be.
I did too, because we never know what might happen in the next 3 years with his health. It might take a downturn. You never know.
Yeah, but again, a lot of people aren't voting for him not because they don't want him, because they don't want her. Because they see that. That's an obvious thing to see. Like, he don't look as young as he did during Obama's.
But what kind of difference would that make? I mean, that sounds stupid though. That's
it is. It's very stupid. I think it's very dumb. Because
that is a stupid notion that just because she might become president, that you wouldn't vote for her. That's very emasculating.
Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's not others.
It's actually overt sexist.
It's overt sexist, and at the same time, it's self-hatred because a lot of what I'm hearing of that is coming from people that look like us, because they have this idea of what the crime bill was intended to do and what her job as prosecutor was intended to be. And they don't understand the roles. They don't understand what the crime bill was. I think it was skewed towards a black people, but one, she was over, what was it?
But we cannot sidestep the fact that these people were arrested and she was doing her job as a prosecutor. She was there to prosecute.
But the idea was a crime. People were doing these crimes,
and she's an elected official. So her job was as an elected official was to prosecute.
Right.
Even when she was the state's attorney of California,
had she not prosecuted anyone,
then she would be out of office.
Yep. She wouldn't have had her job if she didn't prosecute people. But they're saying, well,
and we always obfuscate that her job was to prosecute people, not to fix the problems of prosecution. That is your mayor and your governor's job. If crime is a problem, that's their job. Her job is to prosecute the criminal. If there wasn't a statute or a law in place to convict a person that commits a law, then she would not have a job. If there wasn't a law in place, then she wouldn't have a job. But if there's a law in place, the governor's job is to change that law, not the prosecutor.
Yeah. I just it's just sad that we're in this state.
But we're in a state because we put ourselves in this state because people have grown up to be less than smart. And
it feels crazy to me because it's just sound bites. Going back to the fracking.
We try to be the arbiters of truth here. We try to tell people what's going on and how we can tell it to you in a layman's term so it doesn't go over your head. But if you're not willing to listen or you're not willing to actually sit back and educate yourself, this is the world you asked for. I'm sitting here like in a state of shock because I'm talking to you right now. I don't have my camera on, but I'm looking at you in a flat screen monitor that's sitting on my desk. It's 32 inches. And we are arguing over the environment and the fact that this could have been really different. We could be talking through radio waves, frying your brain.
Yeah.
But technology did that and changed the way we use this and how we consume energy in a better. Remember, the box TVs used to have your goddamn on BG&E bill over $100 every month.
Yeah.
The flat screens changed that industry completely. to the dismay of the electrical industry.
But they still put that bill somewhere else. Now it's $100 for something different.
Right. And do you know how much we use these fossil fuels as in gasoline and fuel? You know, that still governs our electricity needs. Fossil fuels. Right. The stuff that you're still fracking for to dig out the ground to try to keep your power on.
Yeah.
But now everybody, like in my house, I got all LED lights in my ceilings, and then I'm on my lamps and everything else. So I have a very small carbon footprint. But if I had a solar panel, I wouldn't need any of this shit.
And I think they're making it hard for us to
get them,
be able to get that, because there were all these like grassroots organizations that were kind of starting to put these in it, but then there was limitations on what type of roof they could be on, or what's your
but that's why I'm doing my deck. That's why I'm getting my deck done on my roof, because I'm going to get my solar panels at last.
Mm-hmm. But it feels like the further we go ahead, the further we get pushed back in many areas, and it's just. I just want us to be in a different space.
We need to be in a different space, because this is out of control. It's
very out of control.
I have never seen this country this. It's not even just about divisiveness. It's just dilapidated. Like, it's just horrible.
I'm trying to figure out, is it that we're greedy and we don't want to listen to reason, or we just stupid?
I was almost going to say I don't think it's greed, but then you put in that other word, and I want to go with that, because we are an uneducated group of people.
But I don't agree with that as much.
No, I'll change the way I said that. Educated group of people.
Yeah. Because we don't know how to come. I'm one of the biggest.
And I'm going back to what you always been saying. We don't know how to come together, even as a whole entire people.
Yeah.
Not just a race, but an entire people. We don't know how to come together.
And it's the strange part for me is I'm a big conspiracy theorist, because I kind of sit back and I watch how things play out. But even being a conspiracy theorist, I won't ever allow myself to be dumbed down or given information that just don't make sense.
Right.
It just don't make sense. And and part of why I was so angry on that 60-minute interview, because he was still bringing up fucking Hillary. This lady has lost her career goal. She lost it. You know, you helped take that away from her, knowing that everything you were saying out your mouth was a lie. He was still bringing up Hillary's emails in that 60-minute interview.
I heard that part. And she was like, well, why are you bringing it up? She's not running.
Obama is not running. Obama did not. I can't even remember many occasions where he brought up Bush and how Bush left the country to him. He just did something about it. He tried to do everything he could to fix it. We knew what the problem was, but you are now currently the president. And a lot of stuff that he brings up, just like the children in the cages. So let's go with the narrative that Obama went out there, he went to Home Depot, bought some cage material, some nails, some screws, and some, flats, some air mattresses, and threw all those kids in there. Let's go with that narrative. 4 years later, they're still in there, and Obama has not been president for 4 years now.
But you know what? The other question the other question that can't be answered, because I'm against the cage thing too. Okay, right. Human rights is what I say. Right. If you didn't want them there, put them back outside or on the other side of the border. But the question is, what was he supposed to do? Where were they supposed to go? Even if he was, do you want us to create? My suggestion would have been to create a dorm. That would have been that's me being a fixer again. We could have created a dorm for detention. Why isn't there a dorm at this point? I mean, you know this happens. It happens every single day that somebody crosses the border illegally. And you don't want to put them in prison because they're not necessarily criminals, although they came over the border illegally. I just never believed in the border, period, in the first place. That's just so stupid.
Yeah. It's a waste of money.
Yeah, the border, I thought the border necessity was just to count how many people that don't live there entered in the country. Whether they came illegally or legally. I mean, I still don't understand. Like, why don't you just buy a speedboat and just like speed around the border? Like, we're the people that are just going to bring the speedboat into New Orleans Harbor and just get off. Go ahead, have a good day.
But focusing on the border when a lot of our illegal immigrants come here via airplane,
right?
Like they get a flight.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's easy to get in here if you have a little bit of change in your pocket. You can just catch a plane in there. Again, like I said, our country is bordered by beach. If you just get on a boat, it just like if you walked up to Mexico and to the border of Mexico and then took a boat around Texas, you're in. Just get out of Galveston.
But people have been saying that's what's already going on. You know, outside of what the Coast Guard can prevent, it's happening. They're coming in from all of our.
I never understood like the point of the border. I mean, I guess for security is different. Like if you are trying to protect your border from an invading force. Say for instance, there's a military getting ready to bum rush your border, then that's a difference.
Right.
Even still, a wall ain't gonna stop them from blowing it up with a grenade. You know, so it's no point in this border. Like, what are you protecting your border from? If somebody comes here to get a job, that's still them getting paid to put money back into somewhat of an economy for somebody to survive. Why are you preventing that from happening? Are you that selfish?
Well,
because I'm not gardening.
See, that level of stupidity came from a section of our population who felt like, I don't want to do that job. Nobody should do that job. Why are they doing that job?
I am inherently against gardening. I'm not doing it because that's what y'all made us do. I'm not doing it. I will not feel like that, and I don't want to feel like that in the 21st century.
Right.
That's why there ain't no vegetables in my house, because I'm completely against them.
I mean, but you live in America. You have that right now. It's a right and a privilege that you have to feel that way.
Quite frankly, I'm getting ready to take this shirt off because I believe it's made of cotton.
Why? So this, I can't. I guess this long story short, just do your research, do your own research, follow the trail where that person got their research from. And I used to always get on self-published books, but I apologize for saying that for so long. But we have to begin to fact check our information and not against what our fears are or our, just the dumbness. And I'm not calling anybody dumb, but having dumb thoughts will eventually make you dumb. It will dumb you down, and anything that is said to you that soothes your fears and your insecurities will lead us to believe things that aren't true. It's just not true. Kamala was a prosecutor, and that was her job, to prosecute criminals. Now, there have been many people who came out and spoke and said, well, she locked me up. Well, you did it. Did you do it? Everybody isn't guilty, just like everybody isn't innocent. So, I mean, I've never been arrested for smuggling drugs, because I ain't never smuggled drugs before. And I never put myself in a situation where I was around somebody who smuggled drugs. There are other things that I can't say that about, but, and I don't want to seem like one of those people who have, crossed over to the MAGA side and, well, don't get into trouble and you won't be in trouble. Well, I know there are factors that often lead us, because I've been put in a situation where I've been accused, by a police officer who did not even ask me what my name was. I just fit a description. But
right, but when you've been caught red-handed holding the bank bag, like
yeah.
That's different. That your thing was
mistaken identity. It wasn't even
or racial profiling.
Identity. Racial profiling.
Racial profiling. That's different. That's something that's forced upon you.
But if
when you broke the crime and you knew marijuana was illegal back in the 80s and the 90s, marijuana was definitely illegal, and it was till today it's still a Category 1 drug.
Yep.
And you knew you bought it, you committed a crime.
Regardless of whether you feel like it's a crime or not.
Whether you feel like exactly. And that's what the crime bill was about. You broke the law, you got locked up.
Now, now in terms of the crime bill, I do feel like a lot of energy should have been put into why is these things happening within this area of the country or the city or state.
No, I agree with that. But back then that wasn't the issue. The issue back then was suburbia is being overridden with a whole bunch of addicts. That was the issue.
Well, that's
and
because
those
the addicts was coming to the city to get high, and they would go home, and they would be high when they got home. That's why it was addicts in the suburbs. It wasn't that people were
again, but that's not the point. The point was suburbia was now being upset by what was happening in inner cities that was then being
so
traveled.
now I understand why Trump is going so hard for suburbia.
Right. They don't want because now he's back with that track that we don't want them to move back into. So you don't want them back in your community. You don't want them back in suburbia. You don't want them back in your suburbs.
Well, I have a secret for you, Trump. There are a bunch of functional crackheads that live in Owens Mills. They go to job every day and they come home and they do that crack. And
if you think about it, though, would we be in the situation that we are in where drugs isn't as prevalent as it was in the 80s and 90s without the crime bill?
I mean,
right now, drugs,
we
the drugs you get and you use are more under, I don't want to say under the radar because people are caught for drug abuse every day, but they are more under the radar, but it also brought something to light. That crime bill has set some things in motion that we are talking about today, where they are now are focusing on addict recovery and the drug that they use when somebody is overdosing and that kind of stuff. It led to that. You can't forget the history behind where we are today. The crime bill had some positive impacts because we wouldn't be doing the research on trying to cure you of your addiction if it wasn't for all that stuff that happened back then. If you wasn't in prison with a drug addiction problem.
Mm-hmm. Now, have they misstepped in many places because now this whole recovery system has turned into a business? Yes. Are the effects different now because it's more white people that we see are on?
But it was always them. But they was always they always had the money to take care of their own problems.
Because those individuals are now moving to the city.
Right.
They're no longer just in the county anymore. And they're like,
and it was always and that's something that white people always kept under the rug.
Right.
If my child was a crackhead, oh no, we're going to take you to Betty Ford real quick and get you some help. But no one will know about this, and you keep your mouth shut, or you'll never be seen again.
Well, that's what happened. That's why you only saw us strung out.
Right.
You didn't see
Look
the white
at Kirk Cameron.
Yep.
He now a pastor now because his father took him and got him help.
Yep.
And then he became a pastor. Now he wants to instruct everybody else on not using drugs. After he had his fun.
He wasn't there.
After he had his fun.
Right. Exactly. Not his fun. But it's a lot. I mean, government law, all those things have their pros and cons to it. But I hate how they are attacking the individual for doing their jobs. And I have family members who were affected by that crime bill, the 3 strikes you're out rule. Like a lot of those things.
My father was one of them. My father was one of them.
A crackhead?
Yeah, that too.
Oh, okay. I cannot with him. You need to write a book. Just write a book.
But he was also one of the ones that is incarcerated because of the crime bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was. Yep.
So and
he's dead now, so he can't tell me how it went. But because he's dead now.
But there's a lot of people who are now arguing that look like you and me, who also had the same things in their family, who still don't understand, who still saying let Pookie go. Pookie been in jail for 30 years now. Pookie did a lot
of shit. And these are the same people that also know Pookie was a murderer. He killed somebody and they never said anything about it.
Yeah.
But those are those same people.
He turned your grandmother into a crackhead.
Right.
He sold your grandmother crack.
Mm-hmm.
His mother, he sold crack to. So
and those are the kind of people I don't ever want to.
Rehabilitation.
I just don't want to affiliate myself with those kind of people. Like I know somebody right at this moment that I know has taken someone's life, and you had to get out of mine.
I have an uncle who was heavy into drugs, and I feel like when he finally got home, because of the reversal of a lot of the non-violent offenses, and he got out. And he lived maybe 4 years and he passed away. But I feel like if he didn't go to jail for those 16, 17 years, he would have been dead a lot earlier because of the game he was in. Now, I hope that he would eventually got out of it. But, I saw too many people that look like that, who was in that crime era. That it was a crime era. That 80s, 90s.
That was a crime. That is actually the perfect word. It was an era of crime.
Yes.
It was crime. It was murder. It was the reason why all our houses are condemned now. All of that was the result of the 80s and the 90s drug epidemic problem.
Yep.
It was a problem. That's why all these people was crackheads and homeowners. And now they are condemned houses.
Yep.
This is how this happened here. This is how that happened in Detroit. All of them were crackhead homeowners.
Yep.
That ended up losing their homes because of their problems.
Yep. That was a big...
And we keep forgetting that. Just because Pookie's in jail, he was part of the problem.
Yeah.
We want to blame the crackhead, but the crackhead is being abused by its supporter, the one that's providing them the drug.
Mm-hmm.
And that cycle is vicious because the abuser then becomes a crackhead.
So I guess I'm going to leave everybody with a question. What is our personal responsibility when it comes to politics, community, I guess those are the two: politics and community. What is our personal responsibility?
That's a good
question. Whether you feel compelled to run for office, or you feel compelled to be an activist or educator or somebody in between on the front line, quote unquote. What's your personal responsibility? Are you the media outlet? Are you the consumer? Where do you fall?
Well, that's my personal responsibility because I have a day job, but I also do this.
Yeah.
My personal responsibility is to try to help you understand what is actually the facts.
Yeah.
To help you decide on your personal responsibility.
Because I think overall we have to get rid of the information that's sensationalized.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand how the media sensationalized. We have to get rid of that aspect of media, that whole portion of it.
But, right, and don't just look at the sensational stuff. Look at the stuff that actually matters to you.
Right.
The sensational stuff is
your
one
friend
thing.
on Facebook ain't been to nobody's voting booth, but yet you're taking political opinions from this person.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have gotten some YouTube rabbit hole and found some video from 30 years ago, and you are basing your life decisions now on something he watched. And I'm sorry, we gotta stop doing this, but I think we're way over time. I'll see you on Friday. And we actually have a new show coming Next Tuesday?
Let's not talk about it.
Oh, let's not talk about it. So the next show up will be Wednesday, and that will be Living a Rich Life.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. The Artist Exchange every Monday and Friday at 5 p.m. Yeah, and that's it. Peace out, people. Oh,